So then you started the business yourself, and then you had some problems there, right? With a business partner that burned you. Uh, maybe talk a little bit about that, and kind of, I guess what I'm interested in is really like, how do you get over something like that and then go on and move on? I think that's something that, from my understanding of it, it could be a life crushing type of thing. I mean, you went through a few things that could be life crushing, but you
Yeah.
picked yourself up and went on.
Yeah. So I was actually talking about this last night on my Before the Trainwreck series. So if you go to my most recent video on my channel, I was on it for like an hour last night at least. But basically, after I took the package and I went home, I got approached by a old friend of mine that was still employed within the company. He was like, "Hey, I got this idea for business. You're not working right now. What do you say we do something together?" So I was pretty keen on it because I hadn't done anything on my own for a long time, and I like the idea of having a business partner, which, by the way, is generally a bad idea,
Yeah.
with some exceptions,
Yeah.
which I can talk about another time. But so we started working together, and that kind of blew up about 10 months later because, I mean, I learned a few months in that he had, like, one, he was a control freak, and two, he had a bad drug problem.
Ooh.
So that blew up about 10 months later, and then that forced me to kind of go out on my own. But it was a pretty bad blow up. Like, again, I had in my mind that I had equity in a business, that I was, that I had, like guys have relationship equity. Like, I had equity in the business and the relationship with him because I'd done all the work. I was around his wife and his kids a lot, and we were jamming in the evening after hours from when he was working, and when I was working the day, we'd get together in the evening, often at his place, and just kind of shoot the breeze and hash out ideas. And I got to the point where he was just like yelling at me one day, going on about how, what do you say exactly? Something along the lines of, you don't even exist on the books, is what he said. Like,
Oh
I could
shit.
change the locks on the doors right now, and there's nothing you could do because you're not on the books. As far as I'm concerned, you don't even work with me, right?
Wow.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like that was a big bitch slap, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, as a guy, like, one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs have to deal with, one of the biggest problems that men in general should learn how to deal with, is how to deal with rejection, struggles, and problems in your life. There's one of two ways that you can take it. There's a silver lining in it. There's a lesson to be learned. It's something that you can take and kind of move on from and become better. Some people just kind of sulk and dwell, and they want to mope about it with other people, sort of thing. Again, the choice is yours. What do you want to do? But as men, one of the most important skills you need to learn is how to solve problems in life.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Wow. But yeah, that is definitely a slap in the face. Did you actually not have any equity in the company? Like, did
On
you,
paper, no, and I thought I did.
and what happened when it dissolved or you left? Did you get nothing, or did
Well,
he do
I'm a pretty
something?
big guy,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
in stature. So,
Uh-huh.
it's nice to have physical presence,
Yeah.
in a room with somebody else. And he was a big guy too. Like, he was a tank, but it's like, we got in each other's faces, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere until you pay me out.
Yeah.
And that's the very nice way of saying it. But yeah, we ended up hashing it out in a more amicable way, and I kind of went off on my own, and I built one of Canada's fastest growing companies that was recognized several times by a lot of media publications. And yeah, it was a good run. It was definitely one of those moments where I think it was about 6 or 7 years like down the road, I kind of look back and I'm like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was that
Mhm.
conversation in that office that day with him yelling at me, saying that I don't technically exist on the books.
Yeah. Yeah. That must have been a scary moment, though, to think that, I mean, you potentially, like, could have had nothing to show for it, but I mean, you fought for it, and luckily it turned out to
Yeah.
be. But yeah, but I actually read, one of the things that's really struck me, in my life, and because I've done partnerships, I've gone through, somewhat similar situations. Is I read this book called The 50th Law by, Robert Greene and 50 Cent,
Yeah, I haven't gotten to
and
that one yet. Is that good?
it's good. It's good. It's surprisingly good, right? 50 Cent has some pretty good wisdom from the streets, and one of the things that he said that stuck with me. There's two main things from the book. One of them was, own your own corner, and he had this story about going to jail and coming back to do, to sell drugs on the street, and someone took over his corner, or he wasn't working for the, so he was nobody when he came back.
Hmm.
And it was just like that stuck with me so much, because I had been doing courses for this company Pluralsight for a while. I had
Mm.
built a lot of. I was getting huge royalty payments, and I had my first book was published with Manning, and I got and I started to move away from that and moving towards my own thing because I didn't want to. I want to have my own corner, and I got canceled last year on.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so they had my book, this is the Manning one, but here you go. Now I republished it myself, but it's all like owning your own corner is so important, because when they did that, I was able to basically give them the middle finger and say, well, you know what, fuck you, because I have my own business now. I have my own books. I don't need you guys. But so many guys, I think, get trapped into when they don't own their own corner, when they're stuck into a business situation or in the relationship. I think the same applies. Like you can apply that owning your own corner type of thing where you're setting the ground rules.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, a lot of guys don't have that. A lot of guys really don't have that option in life to own a corner. Like they don't have control of their world.